Welcome to My Hometown, the program that explores clubs, organizations, businesses, and issues across Nassau and Suffolk counties and sheds light on the different towns that are making a difference.
A great day to you and welcome to another edition of My Hometown. I'm your host, Bill Horan, along with Nassau Community College student Zach Turkel. Our special guest today is Craig Biscone, an attorney in Garden City who practices real estate and zoning matters and has been practicing in this field for over 32 years. A 1983 graduate of Binghamton University of Business Management and a 1986 graduate of St. John's University Law School, Craig interned at the State of New York Attorney General's office in the Real Estate Finance Bureau, and then worked as in-house counsel at Citibank in New York City before joining a boutique law firm and larger real estate law firm on Long Island where he grew up. Craig formed his own firm 20 years ago and never looked back. He has served as counsel to the State of New York Mortgage Agency, to the Town of North Hempstead Community Development Agency, Merrill Lynch Credit Corporation, as well as numerous institutional clients and small businesses and what he likes to call regular people. Craig is deeply involved in his community in the village of Garden City, where he served as officer and director of the Central Property Owners Association and is a member of the Garden City Planning Commission. Craig, welcome.
Thank you, Bill.
Craig, you're known as a zoning attorney. Now, what exactly is zoning?
I'm going to oversimplify it, but zoning is a set of rules, and those rules appear in the code of the municipality, the town, village, or city. We used to buy books back in the dinosaur days, the local zoning code, and you'd go to the clerk and you'd pay for it. Now, I'm happy to say that you can go on to www.generalcode.com, and anybody, even a regular person, can look up the code for their particular village or town.
So now zoning, would that be where my house is? That would be residential, am I correct?
Yeah, well...
I hope it is, otherwise I'm in trouble, right?
I sure hope you are, Bill. Basically, you have... rules, and it governs use. So, for example, you wouldn't have an auto body shop next to a nursery school. That would be an inconsistent use. And also dimension. So next to your 1.5-story Cape Cod house, you wouldn't have a 5-story office building and another house after that.
So, in other words, good, I guess, and that's why you're part of the planning commission, but a good planning that you want kind of a uniform appearance and also things that would go together and not be inappropriate together.
Yeah, quality of life issues and not the Wild West, not building anything anywhere you want it.
No saloon next to the church and horses pulling up and shootouts. Can't have that.
That's true. Craig, now, did you have to take special courses in law school for this?
Well, Zach, in law school, your first year, you take Property 1 and Property 2. And property can be personal, your stuff, or real, land. There was no specific class on zoning. I learned that all on the job.
Kind of like, I guess, a doctor going out and as you're doing a new operation or a patient comes in with some type of either new disease or illness, you actually learn by seeing that, researching it, and handling it and taking care of it.
Yeah, but if I make a mistake in a case, nobody dies.
We hope not.
That's good. So, but Craig, are there now courses in certain law schools, maybe not St. John's, that actually focus on zoning? Because now probably there are some courses out there.
I'm quite sure there are electives, maybe not core courses, and certainly once you get out. In fact, that's how I met Bill. We taught a continuing legal education class. Got to be 30 years ago, Bill.
Don't
at the
talk
Nassau
about my
County Bar
age.
Association.
Oh, it must have been just 3 years ago, I'm sure.
But in fact, for various institutional CLE courses and for the Bar Association, from time to time, I will teach a class on land use and zoning.
And Zach, as I said, and to anybody listening, I've lectured with Craig, and I sit there and take notes because even though I'm older, I really learn a lot from him. No, seriously, he's very astute, very sharp at things, and has a nice professorial way of putting it to the audience. And I consider myself part of the audience, and my books are filled.
You know what I actually want to see is just you guys duel at, because I know that, Bill, you're a real estate attorney, and you know that Craig, with the zoning laws. That'd be kind of interesting to see.
He'd beat me. I know that he'd beat me. So aside from being younger, he's smarter too. So I have no advantage in that battle.
Bill is too modest. He's forgotten more than I know.
Yeah, I've forgotten a lot.
Over those 30 years.
Now, how many years have you been practicing zoning law?
Gosh, scary to think, but I got out of law school in 1986. For the first 4 years, it was secured lending, mortgages, transactional real estate. So I'm thinking about 28 years or so now.
Wow, that's a long time.
Yeah, it is. So, Craig, what did you decide to specialize in this area of law? Because there are many different areas of the law. Why did you decide to do zoning?
I didn't decide. It kind of happened by accident. And it's a very quick story. A lifelong friend, Chuck, you said to not use real names. His real name is Charles. He wanted to add in his undersized property, a 4,000 square foot lot where 6,000 is standard, a master bedroom over the attached one-car garage because he had 2 children at the time and it was a 2-bedroom house. So Chuck went to an architect, had plans drawn up. He was very pleased to put it right over the existing footprint of the garage. And the building inspector stamped it in big red letters, rejected. He was personally insulted. Well, I looked at the plans and said the architect should have known this. Your garage is 4 feet from the property line. Your setback requirement for the side yard is 5 feet. So either you step the second story back 1 foot or you go for a variance before the zoning board. I referred him to a zoning attorney. He said, no, you're a lawyer. I want you. And so began my career as a zoning attorney. All happened by accident. I should add that garage was legal because it's called prior non-conforming. That garage was built 4 feet away from the property line back in the day when it was allowed. So that's grandfathered in. But once you change or alter a non-conforming use in any way, you've got to go before a zoning board to approve any modifications.
That's so interesting on many facets. First of all, just definitely. By this client coming in, he kind of got you into that area. And just what you taught us there, he was there's a distance between the boundary line of your property, is that what I'm hearing, and where you can build your actual dwelling? Yes,
his garage was 4 feet away, and 5 foot is the required setback. Now, the reason being, you want to keep dwellings an appropriate distance from each other. And I'll give you a quick example. If the next door neighbor had the same situation 4 feet away, you'd have houses that were 8 feet away from each other. And state fire code requires 10 feet separation distance because fires can spread. So that's why the 10-foot buffer.
And I guess just for neighborly things, if people are too close, they're going to be hearing sounds from the other house, even a loud TV or music. That may not be really obtrusive, but it's a little too loud. And bad neighbors, difficulties, etc. So we do want a little distance between us if we can have it.
Good fences, good neighbors.
Good neighbors. That sounds like one of those signs that's probably up in your office someplace.
Yeah.
Now, the average person, is that what they come to see you about? If it's an average homeowner, we won't get into commercial yet, but if it's the average homeowner, is that the kind of thing, the setback area, or do they want to put in a deck, or most of them have a different problem?
Yeah, average homeowners will come for setback, side yard, front yard, rear yard. Front yard very guarded because they don't want to give away front yard variances. But a portico, for example, an open portico, hey, it's not enclosed, it's not living space, that's something.
A portico, is that where you drive the car in?
No, when you go to your front door,
okay,
and you take out your groceries and you go to open your lock, instead of getting rain on you, a portico would be 2 columns and a little roof over.
Oh, I get
okay, yeah.
Slides. Okay. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and decks, more often than not, people build elaborate decks without a permit, and they come to me when they get in trouble. Sometimes forgiveness is easier than permission, not before a zoning board.
Ooh, see that? We learned something.
So, Craig, what happens if you have a client that comes in and they want their whole entire house demolished, and let's say their house is like just a little box, and they want to make it bigger? Would they have some problems with the zoning?
Well, once you demolish what's there, even if that structure was prior non-conforming, you've lost all grandfathered rights. So you're starting fresh, and you've got to comply with zoning in all respects, unless you go to a board of zoning appeals for relief. You know, I think the best way to describe zoning, and I teach this in my class, is I say, envision a triangular piece of property. What can you build on it? And I challenge, I'll actually give a visual with a triangular survey because there are triangular lots. And build me a rectangular house on this lot. And the students will plot it out. Now, you've got 20% lot coverage because it's a half-acre lot. Shrink it. Now you've got setbacks, front yard, side yard, rear yard. Then I'll throw a wild card in. Well, it's a corner lot. It's on 2 streets. You've got 2 front yards now. So you either end up with a triangular house, which I don't even think Frank Lloyd Wright ventured into, or zoning relief to some extent.
So people do there is an everyday use for this, and especially if they're thinking, which many people do today, get a old house, knock it down, put a new one up, they really should talk to someone like yourself or a good real estate attorney to know ahead of time these options and how they could help or hurt themselves in the long run.
And a qualified architect who generally should and does know the code requirements for that particular municipality. Absolutely.
Craig, before we go to Zach's next question, if someone is hearing this and they say, oh my gosh, he's talking about me, my brother, my husband, how can they get in touch with you and where are you located?
Right on Franklin Avenue in Garden City, 1399 Franklin Avenue. They can give us a call, 516-248-4444.
And our guest name is Craig Biscone, Biscone, and I cut you off. You wanted to say something else? No? Okay. I wanted to make sure someone just tuning in knew who they're calling when they're calling up. Zach?
Craig, do you get to cross-exam people?
Sometimes I'd love to, but actually no. When I present before a board on behalf of an applicant, I speak directly to the board and often directly to the chairman, who the other board members will defer to. At the end of my presentation, I will introduce any of the expert witnesses, whether it's a real estate appraiser, an architect, an engineer, if they're putting in a pool, a landscape architect to make sure things are buffered properly. And then the chairman will typically say, is anybody here would like to come up to speak in favor of the application? Yay, we like that. Anybody would like to speak opposed to the application? And each of those individuals would get up and speak directly to the board. There's no banter back and forth. Most boards will be kind and allow me, on behalf of the applicant, to reply at the end. But there's no jousting between opposing parties.
So wait a minute, you don't get to yell, Your Honor, I object! None of that doesn't go on there? You guys are like refined or something?
Well, Bill, as you know, there's no judge. If you're in a regular courtroom at a trial, you'd have a judge, sometimes a jury, unless it's a bench trial with just one judge. This is more analogous to an appellate court, which has a panel of judges. So most municipalities...
These are the ritzy guys, Zach.
Yeah.
Appellate court. Okay, so his guys have suits, they take showers, everything, right?
I leave the appellate litigation to my wife, who's a brilliant appellate litigator, but very, very similar style where you have this panel, typically 5. Like I live in Garden City, for example, and we have 4 sections, and there'll be one board member from each section, and the chairman is at large. And some of these fellows have been serving their community for over 30 years. They're just an amazing group. I don't always win with them because my cases aren't always winning cases, but they're fair, they're reasonable, and there's a consistency there.
And in fairness, I mean, that's all we can ask for of any judge, that fair and reasonable if they follow the rules and do what they should. And I'm sure they know you over the years, and you know what you're talking about, so there's a mutual respect.
Well, especially when in its simplest form, with an area variance anyway, the standard is benefit to the applicant balanced against detriment to the adjoining neighbors in the community.
That almost sounds too sensible for lawyers. No, but it really is when you say it that way, because what's fair to the other? I mean, if me putting up a portico isn't going to hurt anybody and it keeps rain off myself and the mailman and actually probably saves us from danger, maybe ice on the stoop or something, it seems like a pretty good idea, and also usually makes houses look a little nicer and better and more worthy of the community. And while on the other side, if I wanted to put up a Burger King on my front lawn, I think they might be against that.
You know what, Bill? I wish I can do that.
Oh, I know. You're always looking for the restroom.
Yeah, it is true. So Craig, take us through a typical zoning case from initial client contact to final determination.
Well, the first thing I find out is what do they want to do, and is it reasonable? You know, we spoke about Chuck's 1-foot area variance. Very reasonable, very de minimis, and in the same footprint. If it's a use variance, in fact, I just had a case recently. It was very interesting. They're opening up this week in Garden City. Cycle Bar. Sorry, guys, you can't go there for happy hour. Cycle Bar is a high-tech exercise stationary bicycle facility opening up on Franklin Avenue.
Oh, Zach, look at Zach. Does this guy look like he exercises?
He's chiseled, I'll tell you.
Yeah,
Give me the elliptical and I'll go.
If chiseled, I got to get new glasses. Okay.
But when the owner, Lee Williams of Cycle Bar, came to me, he wanted to open up in a particular spot, which I was familiar with because a couple doors down, I worked on a zoning case in the past 5 years. Now, it was zoned for retail, restaurants, and then very specific barbershop, nail salon, haberdasher. Have you seen that word in a while?
Wow.
Clothing store. Things intended for the body or apparel. And I said, well, this is not much of a stretch because the very body that's being conditioned in this facility is going to wear the clothes, and the hair and nails are attached to it.